Welcome to episode number 12 of the AAC podcast. We got Jaron here to my left. You got one of your hosts here, Roy, and we have a special guest here, Dave, who drove. He didn't fly. He drove. This guy was storm chasing all over.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. I mean, what got you into storm chasing?
So I've always had a little bit of an affinity for Mother Nature and the weather. Took a lot of meteorology classes in university, and just the weather plays such a huge role in my life with all the sports that I do, whether it's skiing, snowboarding, mountaineering, diving, skydiving. So it's something that affects my life every day, and I just love it. And
you're just like an adrenaline junkie.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way. Well, guys, Dave, I mean, I asked you to be on this podcast just because we had a great conversation back up in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We were putting on, there was an event that was going on, and just understanding your background, what you do, because currently right now you work with a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
The company is Limitless Brave.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the company.
So this is my second coaching company. I built a global coaching brand for men from 2013 to 2022. My business partner actually destroyed that business, and so I immediately got to work building a brand new business. And so my company focuses specifically on dating and relationships for men, money, their career and their business, and their health. I see those four pillars as the foundation for us as men to be experts in, so that we can make sure we're taking care of ourselves first, and then our family and our community after that.
Now, what was interesting, I was reading on your website there, because I'm like, usually whenever someone is coaching other men and coaching other people, they've gone through hell and back themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote on there, and it was interesting to me, you said you raged against the role of expectations society placed on you as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as you realize, you were angry, but then you came to the realization that you were actually more afraid. So can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so a lot of that was occurring when I was a younger guy.
Yeah, because I relate to a lot of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you have that teenage angst, that anger that's building up inside of you, those hormones that are going crazy when you're a teenager. Got a lot of testosterone running through your body. And so you end up being a lot more aggressive with things instead of, as we've grown into more well-rounded men, hopefully, like things are smoother these days for us. But I always felt like there was a fight going on to achieve anything. Fighting with myself first and foremost, fighting against family traditions sometimes, family expectations, societal expectations, because I wasn't the guy who was finishing up high school or even finishing up college who said, this is what I want to do. I graduated college. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of like bumming around, traveling, trying this business, trying that business. And sometimes things would work. Sometimes they wouldn't. I love traveling, so I kind of have always been doing that. And when I finished college, it's like messing around with things. Businesses weren't working out. I was like, well, I always enjoyed cars. I said, why don't I go be a mechanic? Not a good idea.
I tried the mechanic route too as well.
So I end up going into BMW's apprentice program and graduated top of my class. And I ended up working for them for about 10 years. Programming, I was a master technician, and I learned real quick that I was kind of on a path that I wanted to be on when I was younger, because the corporate world was not for me, not at all. And so I quit that. And at that point in time, I had been asked through college, through high school, through guy friends. They were like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? Whether it was like some business stuff, whether it was dating, whether it was health, because I was cycling a lot at that point in my life. And so I just always had these guys asking me questions. And so That's how I got into coaching in a nutshell. But, the anger, and then you also said, the fears, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're all raised with some kind of fear based on our society, based on our family upbringing, but we're all born with two primary fears. And those primary fears are fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's primal.
Okay.
And so my biggest fear that I developed, and this is how crazy the human mind is, it's a little bit of a long story, but we're going to get into
Go
it.
ahead.
Yeah, dive in, man.
So I had never flown in an airplane until I was 17 years old. And I took my first trip out to Jackson Hole to go skiing. Flew out, flew back, no issues, nothing. I was like, flying's kind of cool. And so I went and kept flying to go to different things. And a little turbulent here, a little turbulent there. My mind started to create this story about flying is dangerous. Flying is going to get you killed. Let alone all the sports I was doing.
This was before you went on your first flight.
No,
Or
this was after.
After.
See, I had taken many flights after my initial flight, and nothing happened. But this fear just kept building and building and building and building.
Even as you're flying?
Yeah.
How many times did you have to fly to get that? Was it right after the first one, or did you have to keep flying to get that?
So it kept, I would probably say 10, 15 different trips. That's when it started to really build. And I remember I was flying out to San Francisco at one point, and there were some bad storms. It was like really turbulent. And for some reason, that really locked in that fear for me. So bad that on the way home, I had a panic attack on the plane. And I was like, I'm never getting on a plane again. God, I like never. And I did not for 10 years.
Is this common? Do you run into this like a lot with other people?
Fear of flying is a huge thing.
Well, I understand fear
Yeah.
of flying, but when you take your first flight and then all of a sudden you generate after
Yeah.
you've already confirmed that, flying's not all that bad. And then all of a sudden you generate all these other fears after that. That's what's blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, people do, like, they get one fear locked in, and then it can stack other fears on top of it and just build into all these irrational fears for no reason.
How many times have you flown, Seth?
Probably like 10, 20 times. I've never traveled, honestly.
Never?
No.
You're just home. I'm here in Texas. This is where I'm staying.
I was born in Colorado, and then I grew up there. I went to college there, and then I drove to Texas. and I've been here for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to ask something on that.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
Interesting, just watching you tell this story. So you said a lot of these people have irrational fears.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they get that? Like you said that we're born with those two things, but you went on and you're born of being, you said it didn't hit you from being born because you're like, I'm good the first one. And then it slowly came in. So like, where did that seep in?
Yeah, so it had always been there, but I hadn't realized it yet. And I'll get to that.
Hold on one second. So it was always there.
Yep.
But you got on a plane and it didn't come out the first time you got on a plane.
Didn't come out the first 10, 15 times.
Okay, well, let's finish the story, I guess. So I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was, we'll get into it. So, I didn't fly for 10 years after that. And I'm getting invited to go to Europe and Australia and like travel with friends. Wow. And I'm just constantly saying no, continually limiting my life time and time again. And so I was like, something has to fix this. So I get online, I find like this little self-help video around fear of flying. And I watched that like 20, 50 times and still like, nope, not flying.
This is after knowing you go, sky, sky. Did you say skydiving?
Yep. So,
Okay.
But I had never skydived to that point.
Okay.
And that's part of the story too.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, this is not working, right? I'm just like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And finally, I started thinking about how this thing developed. And I'm like, I couldn't find a good reason at all as to why this developed. Nothing ever happened on a flight other than like normal turbulence. And so I'm like, okay, this sounds like a creation of my own. If I created it, I could probably uncreate it. And so I was like, look, dude, you got to get on a plane again. It's like getting back on that horse, right, after you get bucked off.
Right.
And so I got on a plane, flew back out to Los Angeles. I think I was doing like a workshop or visiting friends or something. 0 issues. Came back, 0 issues. I was like, I solved it. I was all happy with myself. And then I'd done some other shorter flights, I think down to Florida, but it was still there a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not right. Like, what is going on here? And at that point in my life, I had built a clothing company with my brother. So it was all catering toward action sports. And so we were at like motocross events, skateboard events, surfing events, base jumping events, like all kinds of stuff, slinging our clothing. So I go to this base jumping event and I'm watching these guys base jump off this bridge in West Virginia. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, I want to get into this. So I start talking to people and they're like, well, you got to learn to skydive first because this is super dangerous. And I'm like, nope, not flying in a plane.
Nope.
And they're like,
Wait, hold on. You're going to go base jumping,
right?
But you won't fly in a plane? I like have to process this for a minute. I don't think I've ever heard that kind of like the irrational fear of not getting in a plane that's way more safe than base jumping.
Yeah.
That's blowing my mind right now.
So, yeah, that's the irrational
What?
fear that I talk about. It just makes no sense. And so,
wait, hold on. Sorry, this is just, did you tell the instructor that, like, to their face? Like, I can't get on a plane. And
yeah, no, I literally told those guys, I was like, no, I don't get on planes. And they're like, you have to. I was like,
I just want to know what their face was like. You're like, wait, you're here to base jump, but you won't get on a plane?
yeah. Yeah. So they were like, and that community is really cool. They were like, yeah, we get it. Because there's a lot of skydivers that won't climb an 8-foot ladder, but they'll go jump out of a plane.
What? I've never heard this.
Yeah. Yeah. In the skydive community, most people skydive because they have a fear of falling, a fear of heights, and just want to like prove something for themselves.
They won't climb an 8-foot ladder.
Yep. They'll jump out of a plane at 14,000 feet.
I've never heard this. This is like blowing my mind.
I don't know. The only thing that's rational to me is to why that is because of level of control and repetition.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, sorry. Interrupted your story. Keep going.
Yeah, so here I am talking to these guys. They're like, you have to skydive. You cannot base jump before you skydive. And I'm like, not going to happen. So we did that event again the next year and talked to the same guys, met like a community there, trusted them a little bit more. And they were like, dude, when are you going to come skydive? I was like, nope, not doing it. And they're like, come on. So I, like through the weekend, I just talked to them a little bit more, got some contact information. And they were like, dude, just come to the drop zone and just check out what we do. I said, all right, cool. I'll do that. I don't have to get in a plane.
Yeah.
And then as I'm there, my one buddy, he's like super charismatic dude, like, you know, pretty like caring guy, somebody that you would like trust to jump out of a plane with. He's like talking to me. He's like, bro, it's really not that bad. He's like, I've done, you know, like 3,000 jumps. Like, I'll take you up. It's all good. And I'm like thinking. And I'm just like, I got to do this. Because I didn't know why, but I had like this instinct in me, like this is the path to something, but I didn't know what it was at the time. Ultimately, it was like freedom, but we'll get into that. So I'm just like, all right, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. I remember before doing it, like I make a video to myself, like terrified, like shaking. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to do this. Like, whatever. And go get harnessed up, and here we go, taking off in the plane. And he's like, at 3, we're going to leave the plane on 3. I said, okay, sounds good. It was a big plane. It's a Super Otter that I got to jump out of. So it's big, plenty of room to move move around. I watch everybody go out. I'm just like, oh my God, this is like terrifying. We get to the door and I'm like looking out. It just looks like Google Maps, man. It's just like, you can't tell anything. You're just like, he's like, all right, remember on 3? I'm like, yeah, I got it. And he's like, all right, 1, 2, and 2, we're out the door, of course. And my instruction was like, when we leave the plane, just look for the plane as we're free falling so that you get in a good body position. And I remember leaving the plane and just like this insane amount of fear just rushing through my body and then just gone. It was like this weird moment of clarity. And it was so clear that I was questioning if it was real because I had never experienced anything like that before. And I'm like watching the plane go away, we're free falling, and then it clicked in my mind. I was like, it was my fear of falling the whole time, that primal fear. And so that is what was holding me back with all these endeavors in life. Because I remember having all these nightmares of falling when I was a kid.
Gotcha. I think we've all had those type.
Yeah.
And I'll still get them sometimes.
And ever since that first skydive, I've never had that dream since, ever. And that moment of taking yourself out of your own cage that you built around your limits was the most amazing experience I think I've ever had in my life. And from that point on, my life has literally exploded.
Wow. You tell this same story to all your guys that you're training, you're mentoring.
Yeah, so I do some bigger public speaking events, and I share that story with a lot of people because a lot of people can understand the fear of flying.
Have you ever had any irrational? I got one, but I'm gonna share mine after yours.
Any irrational?
Yeah, completely irrational fears growing up as a kid or anything.
None that I can really think of right now.
Dude,
I don't have anything that's like.
I got one.
All mine are legit. Like, yeah, I don't like spiders.
I don't like spiders either, but that's my irrational fear is if I was in a pool, I actually believed a shark would bite my toes. Look, I was like 8, 9 years old. I would refuse to go to the pool in the hotel because I thought a shark would bite my toes.
That's funny.
That's my irrational fear. And
wasn't there a movie called Piranha?
Yeah,
I mean, there was a movie called Piranha. It was like back in the day. Besides,
I loved watching that movie. It was awesome.
So didn't I saw someone was in the pool, like this couple, and then these piranhas made it through the
like the pipe or something.
Yeah, they made it through the pipe.
Like, eat all the people in the pool.
Yeah, they ate all the people in the pool. Like this one guy was like, "Oh, this girl's like, she's underwater and she's like kind of being all sexy, but then you kind of find out she's like now bleeding, and then
oh my gosh."
So I saw that. I still didn't have any kind.
All right,
fear.
Seth, you got any irrational fears growing up?
I think I would always have fever dreams where in the dream I knew that if I wasn't really focused on something in the dream, it would become really loud. And so it's actually interesting to mention that primal fear.
Yeah.
If I wasn't extremely focused, it got too loud, and then it would just continually increase until I like jolted awake. But I think it was like the fear was not being in control. I think for me, like I had to be in control of things, or else it would get too loud.
Yeah, that's a big fear for a lot of people.
This is why you drove to Texas and not fly.
I don't miss you with flying. I love flying.
I was just messing. Yeah,
that's funny.
So you help men. Is there a specific age group that you help? Or is it young men, middle men, all men, or?
So one of the youngest guys I've worked with was 18, just graduated high school. He really wanted to, he's a smart kid, super smart kid. He wanted to understand like how dating worked. He wanted to understand like how business worked. And he just really wanted a bright future for himself. And my oldest client is 74.
It's a wide range.
Wide range.
Okay.
Those kind of guys are outliers. The main group is around 25 to 35 that I work with.
Single, married?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Single, married, divorced.
Everything.
Getting ready to get divorced. I've saved a couple of those marriages, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
A couple of people have gotten married, so that's really cool.
So what do you find is one of the there's got to be a common factor with men, right, that you run into, from whether it's depression or like belief system. What is it that you find that most men struggle with?
So it's not necessarily a singular thing, but if we want to talk about a singular thing that's all-encompassing, it's confidence. They're just not confident. And that comes from so many different backgrounds. It comes from being raised solely by a single mother or women, a grandmother, like no masculine role model at all. It comes from their own personal limiting beliefs and in irrational fears that they create, just like I did. It just comes from lack of role models in media, because if we think about I guess it was about 20 years ago, your masculine role models in movies and TV series would always be somewhat masculine.
Oh yeah, I was watching Rocky all the time.
Right? Rocky, the A-Team,
Yeah.
like, what else? Like Smokey and the Bandit, stuff like that. And about 20 years ago, I noticed that men started to become the butt of the joke in a lot of these TV shows
Yes.
and movies.
I mean, so sorry, I didn't mean it, but like I completely I saw that started opening my eyes like maybe about 5 years ago. No, not even 5 years, 3 years ago, and like watching, because I used to love watching King of Queens and Everybody Loves Raymond, but they made the men look like idiots, and that it was only the women that was carrying the family.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that was a huge light bulb for me.
Yeah, and that attack, I remember it when I was younger. I was just like, these sitcoms and these rom-coms and stuff, that like the guy's always like this douchey clown, and he like served no purpose other than to annoy the woman and be the butt of the jokes in these shows. And I was like, this is weird. And I wasn't as aware of things as I am now when it comes to that stuff, because it wasn't really prevalent then. Now it's become insanely prevalent.
Insanely prevalent.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't imagine trying to date right now. I actually can't.
Yeah, a lot of guys struggle big time. And that struggle comes from a lack of masculine role models. And so they don't know how to interact in a relationship, on a date. They have the ideas that they've been taught over time that are fairly traditional, but they interpret them the wrong way, or they'll get offended.
Can you explain the wrong way?
So guys love to listen to how women say they like to be dated, but what they actually respond to is something completely different. Because they're responding to, is this guy somewhat emotionally available? Is he safe? Can I trust him? And is he somewhat genuine? A guy that can bring that into a new interaction or a long-term relationship, she's on board. But a lot of guys are like, no, I have to bring her flowers. Oh, I have to take her to dinner on a date. Oh, I have to take her to the movies. Like think of those traditional things. Like that's what a lot of my guys think they have to do. I'm like, guys, you don't know this person. You know nothing about them. What about a walk in the park? What about just meeting for coffee, tea, not even a drink, just to get to know them, to see if there's some kind of synergy there?
Yeah, I mean, so I see a lot of these podcasts that are happening, like Fresh and Fit, and you talk about Andrew Tate, and then we know Adam Sosnick, and I see his stuff all the time. So they speak a lot about having to be the alpha male.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I mean, do you have to be an alpha male? Because there's not a whole lot of men that can actually be alpha males. And is being an alpha male that important?
So you're right. There can only be so many alphas, right? Because if we look at it as a hierarchy, there's very few men that are true alphas that are leading all these other men. So you're right. Like there's very few out there. However, do you have to be that guy? No. And a lot of my guys, they're not that guy. They want to be that guy. But when I'm working with them, I can tell the threshold in which they're going to be really solid. And for them, that's when they reach that alpha peak. And I really try to find where that peak is for them, show them that place to live, and stay there. And then if they want to grow after that, sure, we can do more work. But it's not the muscle-bound, gnarly, like emotionless dude, like do this, do that.
Yeah.
It's not that. And a lot of women don't like that. And even dudes don't like that. We don't like to be around guys like that. Yeah. They're just annoying.
So to me, I think there's a level of yes and there's a level of no to that whole process. To me, I think you can be an alpha male. I think everyone can be an alpha male.
Totally.
But there's an alpha male, kind of like staying in your own alpha male lane.
Yes.
You don't need to be in these other alpha male lanes. You find where you can dominate the best that also holds you accountable, where you go and you do hard things, which we talk about a lot of times. Put yourself through challenges, and that develops the alpha male within your lane, and then you date within that range of what women are looking for.
Yes. In a general sense, yes. Now, can a guy, in a sense, I like to say, level up? Yeah, he can.
Okay.
But it takes a certain mindset. He has to do a lot of work on himself first, and he ultimately has to graduate to that next level first before he gets that next level woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
I'll say I think a lot of it has to come down to humility too. When you talk
Sure.
about confidence, that balance of, not letting ego play in the way, but still having confidence and being humble, and also, like you said, to be emotionally available.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of men, and I've talked to a lot of men. They're just not there for their girlfriend or their wives because they're trying to actually be what you just talked about with the Andrew Tate, like that alpha type.
Yeah.
So there's like these alphas that are projecting what it is to go get women or to live this life. And there's a few guys who can pull that off. Right? Andrew Tate, they can pull it, but the people he's teaching, they're not going to be able, like, it's not even about pulling it off. It's that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy lifestyle anyways.
No, it'll burn you out.
Yeah.
You'll ultimately fail in the end. And that's a really good thing what you just said, because a lot of the guys that when I get my hands on them to work with them, they're on that verge of being burnt out, of trying to be something that they see and emulate that. And if you're not cool with that, and that's just not your natural state, that's going to burn out your nervous system. You're going to end up getting sick, depressed, angry.
That's what I was about to ask you. Like, do you find a lot of people when they try to be that Andrew Tate, and they just burn themselves out to where they just feel they just really beat themselves down, and they go down this dark alley.
Yeah.
Make this wrong turn. It can be deadly for them.
Definitely. It could be deadly for society too.
Yeah.
So if we look at nice guy behavior, and when he's at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, where he's given up everything that who he really is, has no boundaries, and starts taking on the resentment because nothing was reciprocated to him, he's your mass shooter.
Whew.
Dang.
Because you think about it, what do people say when they interview mass shooters? Oh, he was such a nice guy. Oh, he was a good kid. I can't believe he would ever do that. Because he was always out there placating to others to make sure that they were good without setting his own boundaries. And that's what happens. Those guys build up tons of resentment. And in the worst case scenario, that's what happens.
So a lot of these men that you talk to are just all around the world. Like the discipleship they have, it's off of this now a lot, isn't it? They're watching Instagram reels, Facebook stuff, and they're not actually getting real men in their life to sit down with them. And do you run into that a lot? Where like
Totally.
Yeah.
I have to debunk a lot of internet myth, because they'll come in and be like, yeah, but we have to do it like this. I'm like, no, where did you hear that? Oh, I heard it from this guy. I'm like, well, that's wrong. And I'll tell you why it's wrong, because you're not at that level in the capability, nor is that like a natural thing for you to do. So I'm really focused on finding these guys' natural states of being, seeing all of the positives they bring to the table, getting them to express that, and then sharing it with the world without any kind of embarrassment, without being held back, so that they can be a really solid alpha guy. I never use the word alpha with my coaching, because that puts an idea.
It's a triggering word.
Yeah,
too.
it puts an idea in their mind, and it's triggering. And I don't want them to be that. I want them to be, like you were saying, their own version in their own lane of who they truly are. And that's authentic, and that's attractive.
What do you forecast as the next thing down the line of what men are going to struggle with now? Because women are going through this this feminist movement, I believe, to me, I think it was good when it was first developed. I think it took a wrong turn, and they really lied to a lot of women on how it needs to be done. And I think everyone plays an important role, especially when you're going to be raising kids.
Yeah.
So there's that we're facing now. What do you see down the line is the next wave of what we're going to be running into? What's going to be the next trouble for men?
So what I see in the future is ultimately going to be the inability to socialize, the inability to really authentically connect with another human being.
Completely at all, because they're already having trouble socializing as it is.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse.
Yep, it's going to get worse. We already have people living in the metaverse, right? The virtual world, interacting and having digital relationships with a machine.
Yeah, I saw some stuff on that. Like, it's just like, come on, guys. Really? Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
You're going to, like, get married and do weird
Yeah.
sex act stuff with a machine?
Yeah.
And it's, like, a legit thing. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
what are we living in? What?
I think Elon Musk was already talking about having, like, you're going to have robots in you. Like, I think he was introducing the robots and saying that people are going to have more than one.
Yeah, he came out and said that I think he said that he believes that he'll make $1 trillion in a year in profit. I think Pat was talking about this.
Yeah.
He was talking about the video. And he's like, we're going to make 100 million. We're going to sell them for 20. We're going to make 10,000. We're going to make $1 trillion in profit, and everyone will have at least one. And I was like, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I want to ask you something about the relationship stuff, because I do talk to a handful of people, and I think it's really interesting where the culture is taking this, what you talked about. And I'm curious, where do you think it really derives from? Like, are you a God-fearing man?
Not in a classic sense, but
Okay.
I do believe there is a much higher power out there that is pulling some strings.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's kind of where my thought process on this is. I look at what's going on and I see families just being torn apart.
Yeah.
And I do believe, like, Satan, it's his number one goal is to take down the men, because if you take down the men, you take down the family.
Yep.
If you take down the family, then you take down God, basically, because you're just all over the place, right? And so I look at the culture and the politics and all these laws and all these things that are going on, and I'm like, it's just coming down so fast. It almost seems like it's supernatural. And I know we have this technology, but I'm like, it really feels like there's an agenda almost from like a supernatural world that's attacking families at a rate that's crazy. And I know it's happened throughout history.
Sure.
But
sure.
it really feels like it's coming
And
fast.
it's happening through organizations too as well. Like, so I've been keeping a very close watch on Disney. Disney's been acting crazy, and how they're trying to separate. I mean, so I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I stopped watching Star Wars after, they decided, Rey is going to be a Skywalker. And then they come out with this thing called...
That's your decision? That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
What?
That was it.
I thought you were going to say, like, oh, the acolyte thing, they're all gay.
No. So here's the thing. I'm getting to that. So the whole acolyte scenario that's happening, or they're shooting this right now, and they're showing that two women can create a human being, and like, no, we can't. I mean, they're trying to encourage that. That only women can.
A lot of people believe that, though.
Yeah.
In their head, in their mind, they believe that can happen.
I get it, but
Yeah. That and men can have babies.
Yeah.
men can have babies.
It's like, okay.
No, that's like totally messed up. That actually goes back to what I was talking about. Is I think that's where the whole good versus evil and Satan, when he fell, what he's trying to do is he's trying to destroy the family, and what he does is he can't create anything, and he mocks God. So I don't know have you ever seen the thing in Brazil when you're a storm guy, when they had Satan dragging Jesus like in a thing, and the next day, go look this up. The next day, floods came and it just wiped out this whole town in Brazil. They were literally pulling Jesus down and like making fun of him, and they mocked him. And so what Satan likes to do is he likes to like mock it in a sense. So like you're trying to say, oh, a man and a woman, well, no, we're going to say it's man and man, or we're going to say it's woman and woman. And then you get these people that believe it delusionally. And it's like, come on, like, if you just pull yourself back, you're like, this makes no sense. How are this many people? And that's why I said, I think there's something more supernatural going on, or mental, or both, because I'm like, biologically it doesn't work, but yet we have millions of people that say it works.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get there?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting question. There's a couple ways to go with this. You know, I think feminism did a good thing and a bad thing to the family. I think, like we were talking about previously, media attacking the masculine role and what it's supposed to do is damaging the family, clearly. Men do not want to take responsibility for what it is that they've done in their actions a lot of the times. They don't want to stand up and be that guy. Mm-hmm. And so you have a degradation of family over time. Then you have, like we were talking about in that, messaging backing all that up. And lots of, and I'm sure, propaganda-based subliminal messaging in these things that people are watching, but the subconscious mind is catching, the conscious mind is not. And so there's all that stuff going on. We're being bombarded with all kinds of propaganda every day. You know, they have what do they call it? White, gray, and black propaganda. And on an energetic side, I was talking to my doctor about this. She's a pretty interesting woman, very spiritually connected.
Okay.
When I go in to talk medical stuff with her about myself and what's going on, I literally can watch her download information into her brain about what needs to happen to me to fix what's going on. It's nuts. So we were talking the other day. She goes, you know, the cycle of this darkness is going to be coming to an end soon. And I was like, what do you mean?
Really? Okay.
And it was exactly what we're talking about. This attack on the family unit, this attack on society, the polarization and separatization of things. She was like, there's a lot of dark, heavy, evil energy that has been interacting, to your point, with all of us, and it's eventually going to break over the next year or two. So
well, I hope so.
I hope so too.
Is Jesus coming back?
I
Is
don't
that what
know.
she's alluding to?
I don't know. But she's a very, very intelligent and very connected woman to like the ether of information out there. It's an interesting experience to see.
Would you say she's like also functioning mentally at a different wavelength?
Yes, very much so.
We're going back to the frequency
I'm
podcast now.
going back to the frequency here.
Yeah, well, the frequency is very true, right? Like if we
yeah.
have two things vibrating at different frequencies, they're not going to equalize. But like when people of like this crew here, of a certain vibration, like we connect and we share ideas and it just works and it's smooth. And that's the same with relationships. That's the same with business deals. Like,
Yeah.
like people that don't have like that frequency that you like, you don't really want to do business with them.
It's funny you say that. Like people will use it like, I just don't connect with this person is what you hear them say. It's like, it's because they're not on the same frequency.
Exactly.
And you're like, there's nothing wrong with this person. I trust this person, but I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, I can't connect with them.
Yep.
And it's because everyone's on a different wavelength frequency.
Yep.
And I've been just going into this. You listen to that podcast I talked about frequency.
Yeah.
And I've run into so many weird things with that. And it's funny because when you talk about relationship, you can have two amazing people and you think that they would be compatible and they're like, I just can't jive with you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and there's like a frequency thing that's actually going on.
You can kind of see that vibratory difference between them.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this person's vibrating at a higher rate than this person is. Like I see it all the time when I walk around.
Yeah.
I can see people that are of a lower frequency, like just the way they carry themselves, the way they move, the way, energetically I can read like what's on that person. I can just see it. And it's kind of fun, but it's also kind of weird.
Yeah. So it's so I was as I was getting ready for today's podcast too, I went to, because I know you and I had this conversation about power versus force, understanding the different frequencies. And this morning, I got up at 5:30. I did my normal grounding. I had my prayer, then I went to go work out.
Nice.
And I had this, I was listening to this lady, and I'm just like trying to remember back on understanding frequency, because this is not something I actually practice all the time. And now that after just today, I was how mentally clear I got today, and how it just changed, and it immediately changed as soon as I walked in the door at the gym, and the front desk girl was there, and how I said hi, and we were very interacting with each other, and it was just, I was like, well, shit, I just changed my frequency here.
Yep.
And the only thing I changed was that I was thinking about things I was grateful for. So having gratitude.
Nice.
The other things too I was thinking about was how good I am at certain things. Bringing back that same emotion, like when I last won at something. And I win at things all the time, but like, you know, I'm talking about when I felt like I just really kicked ass at something, and it just changed everything now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
Totally, man.
do you do a lot of that coaching with your
Yes.
guys?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting what you just said about as you were kind of going through your morning routine, that vibration was shifting to a higher level and a higher emotional state, more toward. So I teach on this scale of emotions. Like this is something that some guys hate hearing about this stuff, but it's really important to understand.
Okay.
So you have apathy, grief, and fear. Those are our lowest emotions. And then you have lust, anger, and pride. Those are kind of like middle emotions. And then you have courage, acceptance, and peace. A lot of men love peace in their life, and so they're going to work toward that because it's just like we're just chilling, you know? And so a lot of guys, though, get stuck in that lower stuff, that apathy, grief, and fear. They can't break out of it. And so what happened with you is you probably started in the morning, probably around like a lust level, like lusting to like get to work, to do your thing, to get to the gym. And like as that was happening, that emotional intelligence, or not the emotional intelligence, but the emotional awareness was increasing to to more of a peace state, and so a higher vibration. And that's why when you walked in, you said hi, you got to work in the gym, you're feeling good. Like that's all part of it. Yeah,
Man.
And people want to be around people that are in those states. And
totally.
like, you always like, oh man, I don't mind when this person comes over, because they're usually at a higher state in, in that frequency, and that's they've built it in their character almost. Like you're just like, oh yeah.
You know, I've found myself doing that a lot especially with certain parents' kids. I'm like, they're welcome whenever they come over whenever they want. It's because I actually do like this kid. The kid brings a lot of good energy, good vibes, and honestly, they play well with my kids. So I'm like, yeah, they can come over whenever they want. I think it's because I enjoy their frequency that they're at.
Yeah. So then you have 2 really good, 3 really good, 4 really good frequencies together. That's going to build like an even higher level of experience. But you get, couple good, couple bad, it's going to kind of remain neutral. You get a bunch of bad together, it's going to go down, not good. So yeah, the frequency is awesome. Like I can feel myself, vibrating at different frequencies during different experiences. Like when I'm doing my sports and stuff, it's just like really, really high. It's awesome.
Yeah. So as far as like books goes, you recommend that? Is there any other good reads that you would recommend for when you're understanding your frequency, certain self-awareness?
Yeah. So some of the books I like is let's see here. Letting Go by David Hawkins.
Okay.
He has, what's that other book he did? Was it Untethered Soul, or there's another one he did recently? I can't remember. I like that one. David Data did a book called, I can't remember the name of it now.
We can look it up.
Yeah.
See.
I haven't read it in a long time, but it's a really good book. It's about masculinity and the kind of the power dynamics of masculinity and how a man should be. It's more relationship based, so that's a really good book. I like that one as well.
So you have an interesting marriage, with your wife.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us a little background behind that? Because I got to meet her. She's phenomenal.
Yeah,
she's a badass.
Yep, she is.
Yeah,
she is. It's really interesting how I met her. You know, as a guy that was single at the time, and I'm dating 2 or 3 girls at a time to get what I need to be fulfilled as a man.
Okay.
And I'm traveling all over the world. There's girls everywhere. This is my life for a very long time.
Not a bad life.
Not a bad life.
No.
However, when that is always happening and you're looking for a deeper connection, it's not as cool as you think it is, right? And the fact that you would have to manage 2 or 3 girls at a time to fulfill yourself as a man.
I mean, that already exhausts me mentally, right?
I'm already done. I'm out.
Yeah. It's a lot. So based on like some of the teaching that I do, I teach this concept. It's called energetic modeling. And basically I have people feel in their body that they already have something that they do not have and what that experience is going to be like. So this is on a little bit more of the meditative woo-woo side of things. You know, we were talking about frequencies and vibrations. This is kind of along that line. So I had come back from Europe and I was just like, by like, just like natural laws, like this perfect woman has to exist for me. Like I know she's out there. I've got plenty of experience with dating. I know exactly which kind of woman I want in my life. I know all of her attributes. I know what life is going to be like with her. I just haven't put the work into shifting my mental state and my mind in my intention to get what I was looking for. So I spent like about an hour and a half one afternoon meditating, doing this practice, this energetic modeling practice of what it was going to be like to meet this perfect woman and not have to deal with 2 and 3 women to satisfy me as a man. And I spent a lot of time doing that. I was going through like every aspect of a relationship. Like what was it going to be like when we met? What was it like when we were going to hold hands, hug, kiss, like go on vacation together, like everything you do as a couple. And so I was learning to like really feel that in my body first and foremost and let my body kind of guide me to this person. And also counter the idea that I currently had about having to have all these girls. And as I did that work, 1 month later, I was back in Europe and I met her. And it was awesome. Like I was having a bad day from work and I went to one of my favorite cafes in Bucharest and got some cheesecake. I was like all excited eating my cheesecake and I like noticed when I walked.
Good cheesecake.
Yeah.
Do you like just the regular plain cheesecake or is there a certain type?
So this cheesecake is really amazing. It's like a lemon cheesecake and they do like an orange zest on top. Oh, it's fantastic.
I gotta pause and make a funny thing. Do you notice how the frequency went up in this room when us men started talking about cheesecake?
It's like food, steak. Yep.
I mean, I'll eat cheesecake all day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's one of my favorites for sure. So I'm in there like eating my cheesecake. I look over. One of my buddies that I know in Bucharest, he's there kind of hanging out loosely around this table of like 20 dudes and 2 girls. So I go over, I talk to him. I'm like, who are these girls here? He's like, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to find out. And so went and shook hands and met this one girl, talked to the guys. They were just kind of like, who's this dude at our table? Yeah. And then turned to introduce myself to my now wife. And she like stood up, shook my hand. Hello, my name's Anna Maria. And I'm like, that's all I needed. That was it.
Really?
I knew immediately.
Okay.
I could tell that this girl came from a very well family, a very good family. She was highly educated. She had proper protocol and etiquette, and the connection, spot on.
Did you have that song playing in your mind, like I can just die in your arms tonight?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was still kind of like playing the game at that point, right?
Yeah.
But it was funny. She told me later that she saw me before I saw her because I walked in and she felt my presence.
Wow.
And she'd like turn around and she was like, who is that? And I didn't know that.
Vibing.
Till
I like
later.
it.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah, you're vibing. The frequencies. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So I stand there at the kind of the head of the table talking to my buddy, not really paying much attention to the group of guys, but every once in a while I catch her looking at me. And so we would just kind of flirt back and forth, like just with our eyes, not saying a word. And we did this for like 20 minutes. And then I could tell she was kind of getting restless. And then she comes over and she's like, hey, it was really nice to meet you. And I said, same. I said, we should stay in touch. And the next day we went on our first date, and the rest is history.
There we go.
There
we go.
Yeah. And now she's an amazing woman, as you know. I mean,
we plan on having her on the podcast because she has.
That's
some
what he said. Yeah.
too.
Yeah. She's got 2 master's degrees, speaks 7 languages. And
That's crazy. 7.
yeah. So when we travel, it's awesome. So if I don't know something, like I kind of like when we travel, I kind of take care of like our physical security, right? And she does a lot of the local cultural stuff for us. And
Yeah.
So it's an awesome team. It's really, really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I love it. So yeah, she's super supportive of everything that I'm doing. And as she kind of got involved with my coaching company and saw what I was doing and how I was helping change the lives of men in just a really positive direction, she's like, this is awesome. I want to learn to coach as well. Now, she's already incredibly intuitive to like a almost clairvoyant medium kind of way. Like she can see things. And I'm like, how did you see that? But that's a woman's nature.
Yeah.
They have that ability innately. It's awesome. We as guys, we're just kind of like, oh, yeah. Which that's just the way we are. But we need to be that way sometimes.
I know. I had this funny story that I tell everyone, like, because I'm entertaining some I was gonna entertain some clients, and then like want to do something really cool with my top people I work with, and I ended up buying I was living in Florida, so I ended up not buying. I rented a yacht.
Nice.
That way we could entertain them after the event that we were hosting. And I go to my wife and I'm like, hey honey, I got a yacht. She's like, you did? I'm like, yeah, I did. She goes, well, where are we going in the yacht? I'm like, I don't know. And then she's like, okay. So do they have people that's going to be kind of hanging out and serving us and stuff like that? I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, well, what about food and drinks? I'm like, did you plan that? I'm like, nope. And she goes, all right. It's almost like that whole hold my beer situation.
Yeah.
Where she just goes in there and she goes, she put this whole thing on. Everyone had a kick-ass time. But it's just funny how, again, going back to what you said, us guys are like, we just kind of go.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I know she was a little frustrated with me, but she had a great time. She loved it, and I was glad that we were able to do that for our clients, and not just for our clients, but also for her as well.
Note to self: you don't rent cruises. I don't buy.
Plane tickets.
Yeah, but that's a cool thing about us and as men and masculinity in general. It's like you tell us a goal of something you want to achieve, and we will stop at nothing to achieve it. I mean, we're not distracted. It's like we're locked onto that thing, and that's really cool. That's a cool thing to be able to do as a masculine, right? We don't get wrapped up in the nuances and the emotions of things. We just get it done. And so that's the cool thing about men and women. Like women have that ability to look at all the details and the nuances and the emotional part of it. And, our job is to go get it done and provide, protect, and stuff like that. There's this really cool quote. I forget where it came from, but it says, our job as men is to protect our woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. And her job as our woman is to lead us to our soul. I really like that.
Wow. Can you say that again?
So our job as men is to protect our woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. And her job is to lead us as men to our soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure to add that in the comments section of the podcast.
Yeah, I love that quote because I think about it.
Do you have any more questions?
All the time.
No, I
This is
actually
great.
have a few, but it would probably take another hour to go
we
through.
a
But
little longer,
We can go another hour.
he's ready to go.
I'm
I unfortunately can't. I have to go up to Shields to go drop off some
Okay.
sweet product, but
Okay.
I do got one. I'll just hit you with one that I was thinking about when you were talking about relationships. So we won't go an hour on it, but we'll dive into a little bit bit more on it. Is when you're coaching these men, and I asked you earlier if there's about the confidence thing. Is we never really dove into like what do you do to actually help build men get the confidence? Because some people just like there's a lot of things I'm confident in. There's a few things I'm not confident in, but there's things I'm really saying I don't care. Just like you just talked earlier, I'm gonna ramrod over here and go get it.
Yep.
And sometimes too much confidence is bad. But like when you run into this, how do you actually help coach? And I'm sure it's different for everybody, but like, is there some kind of like process that you have to work through? And it's not like a one night thing, obviously. Like, what do you do to help them gain confidence back?
Yeah, so I work in a couple different ways. Unless it's a hiring client that's worked with me, I don't do individual one-day work with them. Most of my workshops are 2 days to a week long.
Okay.
Right. Some of my virtual coaching is upwards of a year long. So I'm spending time with these guys, understanding like what makes them tick, what do I see continually coming up that is blocking them from success. I dig into their thoughts about themselves. Like, if they come and they have an agenda, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, well, what's kept you from doing that? And it's usually a myriad of things. And so I start attacking those individual things for that guy, breaking those down, showing him how to reinforce the positive thing that he wants to go and actually do, and start building some experience for him in that direction so that he starts building the confidence to continue on himself. I don't run any kind of cookie cutter program.
Yeah.
Every single guy that comes to me, even in a workshop, the first day I am dialing in on each one of those, what's really going on.
Is there a level of where you have to kind of break them a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Is
So some of those guys, I work with some guys who will not stand up for themselves. It does not matter what you tell them to do, what you do to them, they will not have an ounce of fight in them.
Where did they just like, you think they were born that way or they got beat and they just got stuck?
Some have been abused. Yeah. Some just have such a mental block of this is impossible for me, and they believe in it so deeply that they can't let go of it. And so what I do with those guys, I just show them a tiny little bit of a win. And they're like, oh, okay, I did that. And then I show them a little bit more of a bigger win. And so I do the breadcrumb thing and then get them to like the full loaf of bread. So that's one way I do it. I also do this model work, I call it. So I bring in women, especially guys that want to work on their dating and their relationships. Women are an incredible emotional trigger for men. And so we'll do work where we're gazing with each other, doing a lot of emotional intelligence work, a lot of human connection work, emotional work. And for most guys, it's about being witnessed. I'll even do that work with other guys, like two guys working together, where they're being witnessed by a peer or being witnessed by a woman. And now they have to stand and deal with what's coming up for them, all the stories, all the ideas that they've created about themselves. And then I do give some of the models and some of the other guys that I work with permission to help poke holes in those ideas that they have and show them that, hey, there is another way, and share personal stories as well. Like I said, I don't have a specific method. I just zero in on what I know this guy needs, and I just go for it. And unfortunately, like we're talking about this, there's a lot of bad self-help out there on the web. I've had so many guys come to me and say, man, I've spent a ton of money working with other people. I wish I would have found you first. And I just had a guy in the other day, and he goes, I've been to 14 different coaches, and you spent 20 minutes with me and saw things and corrected things that I've been asking questions about for years. So I don't know, I can just dial in.
What makes you so different? Is because you just can connect on a different emotional level? Does it go back to frequency again?
Part of it's frequency. I can see that vibratory change in each guy, exactly like we were talking about. I can see the emotional shifts. I can see where their conscious mind sits in their body, how much they're aware of this machine that we walk around in every day. And then I can also dial in like really what's going on under the surface. They might tell me they want one thing, but it's actually like 5 layers deeper is what they really want. And I'll get down to that root and start digging at that. And when I can get to that root of the problem, so much of the other ancillary stuff just falls away. So that's kind of how I work. I don't have any official training at all. I've just been doing this.
You do. It's called life.
I do, exactly. And that's a very good point, because people that are near and dear to me, they constantly say like, dude, you've lived multiple lives compared to your average person, which is true. I've done a lot. I've been in a lot of bad situations. I've been in a lot of good situations. And so I draw on all of that information to help steer this guy to the place that he really wants to get to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, dude, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
we could sit here for like another 3 hours.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely could keep going, but unfortunately, but we definitely got to go storm chasing with you sometime. Or
Yeah.
and
I'm down for it, man. That sounds fun.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So are you going to see that new movie, the new version of Twister?
Twister 2?
Yeah.
Probably not. I really don't watch TV that much. I really don't watch movies.
Okay, I'm a movie guy.
I'm a huge Sicario fan. I can tell you that.
I don't even know what that is.
The Sicario movies.
I'm over here pretending like I know what that is.
Oh.
I don't
We
know.
don't know what that is.
So the Sicario is a hitman in Spanish. But
Okay.
it's you guys got to watch it. You'll totally fall in love with it. It's like a blend of like CIA operatives
Okay,
and like
sounds
the
good.
cartels in Mexico and like all this cross-border stuff. It's awesome.
Well, tell the audience where they can find you.
So you guys can find me. Which camera am I looking at? This one.
The middle
here?
one.
The middle one. Okay.
This one. It's kind of like hot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just here. Go ahead.
So guys, if you want some help in life and getting dialed in on where you want to go, you can find me at limitlessbrave.com. All my socials are limitlessbrave as well. And if you want to email me, you can email me at dave@limitlessbrave.com.
Awesome. Well, Dave, thanks, man. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
And I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Like and subscribe, and leave a comment for Dave. And take care. Bye-bye.